Welcome to the Diva D-Town. Welcome to the Diva D-Town, where bold, confident women embrace life unapologetically. From love and sex to wellness and reinvention, we keep it raw, real, and powerful. No filters, no limits. Just fearless conversations to help you thrive. Let's dive in with Diva Mia.
Well, hello, this is Diva Mia. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the stages of grief and how to recover and your journey back to yourself after you're grieving, whether it's from the loss of a loved one or divorce or sometimes even the loss of a job. People grieve. And whenever you're grieving, whether it's the death of a spouse, your child, parent, or a friend, or just a life transition like divorce, there are different things that you go through that you need to let happen. I know a lot of times we try to fight tears back, or we try to move past things fast because we want to move on. I, for one, when I was going through a divorce, I kept trying to push the grieving process faster and faster. Sometimes you just got to let it take its toll and feel each emotion in order for you to release it. Grief doesn't look the same for everybody, though. There's no timeline. My timeline might be different than yours. You may move faster, you may move slower, and it doesn't only show up after death. Sometimes it shows up after divorce. Sometimes it shows up after a betrayal of maybe just a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or an illness, or the loss of life that you thought you'd have. That's what grief is. You're grieving, missing someone because they're no longer here, whether they've passed on or whether you've had a divorce. Grief is something that we all go through. I will say, now that I'm in my 50s, I see a lot more of it. I think December, there was a lot of death. I lost my father in December. Grieving is something that you have to go through. It's real. How you're healing depends on you. Sometimes we're going to go through the stages, but sometimes you'll be in one stage longer than the other. When you lose a person and they're no longer around, the grief is immense. You lose part of your identity with that person. You may feel like you're missing part of you when they pass on. Your health may deteriorate if you're not careful. Then all the future plans you had may be uprooted. You may have had a whole future planned with someone, and it's no longer there. It could be just a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a divorce, or you lost someone very important to you. But there's no right way to grieve. But suppressing your feelings, your grief will only prolong the suffering. That's one thing I had to learn. Because if you try to hold back and suppress it and compartmentalize and box it up so you can keep moving on, or distract yourself, it only makes the grief prolonged, and then you suffer for a much longer time than you had to. I'm here to tell you, you got to be courageous when you're going through grief. You got to have the courage to face each portion of grief. It doesn't mean that you're forgetting when you grieve. You could grieve fast, but it doesn't mean you're forgetting them. It just means you're integrating their memory into your life. You're happy and you're glad you had them in your life for the time you did. It's normal to grieve. You should not ever feel shame about grieving. You should not ever feel shame about crying. It's a way to let things out. Crying releases so much emotion. It's a wonderful thing to do. Now, grief is emotional. It's also physical. If you bottle it up, you can have physical issues. You can cause yourself an autoimmune. You can cause hormonal imbalances, neurological issues, and spiritual issues. The pain can be immense. When you do this, you can also find yourself sick, like physically ill. You could get brain fog. I will say, when I was going through my grief, I was not functioning well. I was always exhausted. I had lots of anxiety. It was tough. I'd forget things. I would say, I was like, am I going through Alzheimer's? Because my memory was lapsing. Sometimes when I run into issues, I'm like, wow, that's really bad. Then you can also suppress your immune system and cause autoimmune diseases. Some people this happens to a lot of people after a divorce. It happens to a lot of people after the death of a spouse because something snaps. Because autoimmune diseases are caused by intense emotional pressure. It's usually follows an autoimmune starts when there was something that pushed you to your maximum in your emotions. Something just you couldn't take anymore. It's a level of stress that you'd never felt before. It might be 2 or 3 or 4 things that happen all at the same time. I know that happened to me. I had so many things happening and piling on all at the same time. It broke me. And it caused me an autoimmune disease. It can cause sleep disruption, which when you have sleep disruptions, your health goes down. If you're not sleeping well, you can cause some autoimmune diseases too. You could eat more or you could stop eating altogether. You might lose a ton of weight or you might gain a ton of weight because you're grieving, and it's okay. You need to give yourself some grace. I will say when you're grieving, working out does help, but don't overwork out just to ignore your feelings and throw yourself into your workout so you forget who you are. It's not a weakness to grieve, and the nervous system has to respond to loss and has to release it. Because if you keep it bottled up, it will eat at you. I think sometimes one of the first stages is that we go through shock and denial. We don't believe it's true. I know when I got called that my father passed, I couldn't believe it. I was numb. Disbelief was the first stage that I had to go through, and I had to adjust. It's a survival stage because it teaches you, okay, I can't believe it. Your body starts to transition, but your body also does this to protect itself. You could have lost a spouse, you could have lost a child, you could have lost a friend, a dear friend, or a parent. Disbelief and denial is your first stage. Everyone goes through it, but your body does this to protect you. It's almost like the first stage because your body's getting set for what's to come. But don't force your emotions to feel it. Don't force yourself to go through it. Just breathe, sleep, drink lots of water. You're going to wake up in the morning and think, oh my gosh, did that really happen yesterday? You're going to fall asleep crying sometimes, and you'll wake up and you're like, did that really happen? This can happen with a divorce. This can happen with a job loss. A lot of people wrap their identities up into their work. Make sure you drink lots of water and you sleep a lot. You need to rest because your body's going through a massive transition. Don't forget to eat, but don't make a lot of big decisions during your shock and denial phase because you'll find that you are jumping into relationships maybe you shouldn't be jumping into, or you're buying property that you shouldn't be buying, or you're changing jobs maybe because life is short. I might as well just go and do something crazy. Don't do it because you're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? All right. It can be a transitional moment, but make sure it's an educated transitional moment. I don't think when you're grieving, you should be making major life choices. It's a time to rest and recuperate and then realize your next phase is not going to be fun because the next phase is anger. You could get angry at the person that died. You could get angry at the person that cheated on you or that you got divorced from, or you could be angry at God. You could be angry at the doctors. You could be angry at the spouse of the other person. You could be angry at whoever was around the person when they died. You could be angry at yourself for not being with them more. Then you could just be angry at life. If you've had a lot of loss back to back to back, you're like, what the heck? Am I cursed? What is going on? Why is my life like this? You may start asking why a lot. If you remember when you're a child, we ask why a lot. Nobody answers, although somebody might answer. But for a while, nobody seems to answer. You get angry. Anger helps to mask the pain and the fear you're feeling. It's another form of protection. I really believe that the body's protecting us. But when you're angry, don't take it out on other people as much as you're going to want to. Maybe you have a partner or spouse or someone a good friend that will sit there and listen to your anger. But you need to physically release. Now, I know a good glass of wine is great when you're angry, but don't go and throw yourself into substance abuse during grief. Because if you use substances to maintain your mood, you're not feeling, you're just numbing yourself, which again is going to delay the healing. It's going to take a lot longer and you're going to suffer longer. Try to do something physical. Go for a walk, go swimming, do breath work, lift weights. I will tell you that when I am angry, I do so well lifting weights. I can lift more than I ever thought I could. Do some breath work, breathe deep. Journaling can help too. Journal where nobody's going to read it. If you journal and you write things down that no one's going to read, it will help you. If you lose a parent, sometimes it feels like a chunk of your soul got taken away. Then I think therapy is also good, especially when you're angry. Because when you get to the anger phase, even the disbelief phase, therapy helps. But when you get to the angry phase, they're going to help you direct your anger into positive places. Some people will throw themselves into their work when they're angry. Some people will go take a karate class or a dance class, something. Get your body moving when you're angry. Then when you start journaling, you're going to realize you're going kind of into the next phase, which is bargaining. You're going to ask why again. You're going to say, if only I was there, or if only I'd spent more time, or if only we had done this. And you can't, because replaying all these scenarios in your head is going to cause guilt and regret. These scenarios aren't the truth. Because what's happened, it's done. I know that hurts to hear, but there's nothing you can do to fix it. A lot of times, even in divorce, if your partner cheated on you, what do? Can they take it back? Not likely. If you lost a boyfriend or a girlfriend, same idea. If you lost a job, you might be able to get a job back. Heck, you might even be able to get a spouse back. But it's unlikely. Most of the time, it's best to find a new way forward. But the bargaining stage is when we say, if only I'd done this. If only I was there for them, maybe they wouldn't have died. If only. One of the things you can do when you're in this scenario is just sit in nature, do more breath work or meditation. Again, moving your body helps with this as well. And then if you're going through severe trauma and you feel stuck, because the bargaining stage is one of those stages we feel stuck and we can't get out of. It's one of those stages, once you get into it, you may stay there for a while. Heck, you may stay in the anger stage for a while. If you find yourself stuck and unable to move past a certain stage, you really need to talk to a therapist. And that's why everybody says when you go through a divorce, it's almost like a death of a spouse, because that part of you lost that person forever. It is like a death. You need to go to therapy. And you need to be compassionate with the emotions you're feeling. I am so tough on myself sometimes, and I give myself no grace. And I've had to learn through grief that grace for yourself is important. Grace is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Without the grace, you can't move on to the next step. Grace is very important. I think it's probably one of the most important parts of the bargaining stage is to give yourself that grace. Then the next part is depression or sadness. It's a really deep sadness, and you'll get stuck there for a little bit. You might feel helpless or hopeless. You might not know what to do. You might have lost the love of your life. You might have lost a father that was a hero or a mother that was a savior or a child, God forbid. At this level, you have to go through it because you might have lost your purpose because your identity was wrapped up in that job or that partner or that child. And you're going to go through withdrawal. Almost like you were addicted to a drug, there's going to be withdrawal symptoms. Because you've lost your purpose, you've lost your meaning. This is a depression stage. It can lead to clinical depression if you can't get support. You need to get support from friends, you need to get support from family, and you need to get support from your therapist because depression can last. Don't hide in a corner or in your house when you're going through this, and be with people that won't make fun of you when you cry. Be with people that will support you when you cry, that will listen to you. I know I went through this by myself, but I was able to call friends that helped me through part of this when I was crying. I mean, both with my divorce and both with the death of family members. I've had a lot of deaths in friends lately, too. There's been a lot of deaths. In our 50s, we just see so much more death. In our 60s, it's going to be even more. By the time we're 70, there's not going to be a lot of us left. A lot of people think, we're going to live to, I think I'm going to live to 150 personally, but a lot of people aren't going to be there with you. They say if you want to live to 100, you better make a lot of younger friends because you're going to see a lot more death. It's part of life. It's sad, but it's true. As we lose friends, as we get older, it's going to happen more and more often. That's why you've got to value those relationships that you have with people every day. Sticking to a routine when you're going through depression is one of the best ways to get out of depression. Exercise is a great way to get out of depression because it's going to release some oxytocin in your body. You need to have professional support if you're depressed. Don't isolate. Get out and go to a gym. If you have a home gym, great, but go to a gym. Get out and just be. You don't have to be close to people, just be in a happy situation. Gyms tend to be happy situations. You could go take a dance class. That's a happy situation. Go places where people are happier because you will feed off of their energy. The next stage is acceptance. I think actually before the acceptance stage, there's like a numb stage that is peace. There's a stage where you feel just so numb after depression and you just don't feel anything. They don't talk about it much, but it happens where you're lacking motivation, you're lacking clarity. You're not depressed, but you still don't know which way to go. That stage, I will say, once you get through that stage, you tend to move up and find your path. You could stay in that stage for a while, but it's almost like a springboard. It's like your body's just taking a breath and relaxing in nothingness for a little bit so that you can move forward and accept and integrate next. Acceptance and integration, it's not happiness. It's not saying I'm over it because you're still going to get, I say triggered, like every once in a while, like a couple days ago was my father's birthday and it triggered me a little. It might trigger you when holidays come around or something you see that you used to do together with that person shows up. It can trigger you. it doesn't mean you're over it. It just means that you've accepted what has happened and you're integrating your life and moving forward. But you got to learn how to live with loss. Acceptance is not approving what happened. It's really not. It's accepting the reality without the resistance anymore and the denial and the anger. When you get to the acceptance phase, whether it was a divorce or a death of a spouse or a death of a child or just death, you realize that you can breathe again and find your new purpose and find your new why and find your new way forward. But you got to take your time. You can't rush it. I know I was like, I need to set new goals and find my new purpose, like right after I got divorced, and I was push. I wanted to skip over all the other stages of grief, but you can't. Because if you try to rush it, you're going to create anxiety. You're going to be like me and create autoimmune issues because you're going to compartmentalize as much as you can. If you might even have an addiction. I don't really have an addictive personality, but you can have an addiction. And all your relationships will start to dysfunction if you can't handle the grief in each stage correctly. Nobody tells you this stuff, how hard it is to grieve. If you suppress grief, it resurfaces later into illness or your emotions shut down. Some people, when they go through grief after a divorce, they never want to be in a relationship again and they completely shut down and they aren't willing to open their heart up again. Some people, when they have a death of a partner, they never want to date again, or they lose their job. After they've lost their job, they don't want to work anymore and they go through depression. You have to adjust. This is part of life and grow from it and take all that they gave you as a lesson. Take all the job that you had, all the joy you had in your job as a lesson, all the joy you had in your marriage as a lesson, the good times and the bad times, all the love you had for that person, all the love they gave you, it's a lesson. It's a memory. It won't disappear. It's internal to you now. The thing about grief is if you ignore it, it waits for you to get there. It waits for when you're ready. If you're going through grief, realize you're going to get all the stages. What was funny, I found out that I suppressed the anger quite a bit. It took me about a year to go through the anger stage after my divorce. I was in denial for a long time, and I tried to jump to the acceptance stage, but the anger came back and bit me because I didn't feel it. Then you realize that you get autoimmune issues from some of these things. In fact, your liver holds your anger, as they say in Chinese medicine. The goal is to remove the stigma of grief. If you are not sleeping well, or you feel numb or disconnected for several months, it's time to seek professional help. I went to a therapist a couple months after I got divorced, and I'm still seeing a therapist because I found that we have challenges that they're trained to help us work through. It will help you get unstuck. It'll help you process your anger or even your guilt. Even when there's anger, sometimes there's guilt. Could I have been more? Could I have done more? Could I have helped more? Could I have done something different to fix something? That hopelessness and that purposelessness needs support. Most people, they turn to alcohol or drugs or throw themselves into meaningless relationships or do something that's harmful to themselves. If you lost someone, I don't think they'd want you to do that. If you love them and they loved you, they don't want you to fall apart when they're gone. They want you to be strong. They want you to live. You can go see a grief counselor or a trauma specialist, even do EMDR if it was a very traumatic situation. There's also somatic therapy, which a lot of people are doing now. And if it was a divorce, go to a divorce recovery specialist or maybe a narcissist recovery specialist. But there's support groups too if you lost a child or a spouse, because the support groups, other people have been through it and they can help. But strength is asking for support before you break or before you cause health problems. Sometimes they can't be avoided. Sometimes if you would have gotten help earlier, maybe they would have been. I hope that you can get the support you need, but then you also have to take care of yourself. The goal is to feel better as soon as you can. If you're not sleeping well, there's some things that you can take to help calm your nervous system and sleep better. You can take magnesium glycinate, which is really good for sleep. Omega-3s are going to help with your mood and support your brain health when you're going through the stage of memory loss or anger. B-complex is great to help with your stress. L-theanine or theanine, depending on where you're from in the country, it helps with anxiety and mental clarity. And theanine is really good for your brain overall. I think this is something you should be on even when you're not grieving. And ashwagandha will help with the stress, but it's not for everyone. If you have reaction to these things, only introduce one thing at a time so you can make sure you don't have a reaction, or if you have a reaction, talk to your doctor. Then there's teas out there like chamomile tea. That's nice to calm you when you're grieving. Lemon balm will help calm your nervous system as well. Holy basil, which is also known as tulsi, helps with your emotions and helps you be more resilient. I think that teas and supplements are a great thing to supplement with. Passion flower will help with sleep and when you ruminate. Rose tea is also good for your heart healing. Tea rituals can become moments of self-compassion. It can become a moment of self-clarity and relaxation. That way you get to stabilize your nervous system and calm without pressure. It's a few minutes that you can take just for yourself. Then make sure you sleep as much as you can and then do gentle movements. Don't go crazy. I mean, I think I kind of went a little crazy in the weight room trying to push out some anger, but gentle movements are actually better. Yoga, and create a consistent routine so it's every day. When you get on a routine, it helps with your mental clarity too. Then you can rebuild your identity. You rebuild your identity slowly. One day you will no longer feel lost. You will rediscover new interests that are part of you that you enjoy. Allow joy without the guilt. Joy does not dishonor them. It celebrates them. Because when you're joyful, they're happy for you. Because they would have wanted you to have happiness. Because happiness and grief can coexist. You can still feel grief and still laugh. I've been to funerals before where somebody made a joke and they laughed. And it was okay because we're celebrating the memory of that person and the love for that person that you had. Some people like to throw themselves into service. I've seen some people after a divorce turn into a service junkie where they're getting a fix. They're addicted to providing service for other people. That's not much different from alcoholism because they're just masking their pain and they've moved on to a new addiction to forget their grief and it just prolongs it. Some people try new creative things, though, to grow into, or they push themselves into a new relationship where they're not ready. Take your time. You don't return to who you were. You get to evolve into a new person to who you've become with all the life lessons and all the joy that they gave you. If you're listening today and you're in the middle of grief, whether it's job or divorce or separation or loss of a child or a partner or a spouse or a parent, you're not broken. You're just human. Give yourself some love, give yourself some grace, and just let yourself feel. Healing doesn't mean you've forgotten who you are. It means you get to grow. It doesn't mean you've forgotten who they were. It means you're learning how to carry love forward in a new way for you and for them. You get to be the person you always wanted to be. Remember this, someone's looking over your shoulder. And you've got people that care for you and love you. I love you. I hope that you have heard this message deeply. If you need help and you need support, that you can find it and that you can grow from this and become who you need to be now and into the future. God bless. I wish you the best in your trials. I wish you joy. I wish you peace. I wish you the end of your grief, however long it may take. This is Diva Mia signing off. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We'd love hearing from you. Visit thedivadetails.com to connect. See you next week for more.
Diva Details podcast and website are intended solely for informational and entertainment purposes. The content provided does not constitute professional, medical, financial, or legal advice. We are not licensed medical practitioners, financial advisors, or legal professionals. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Any financial topics discussed are based on personal opinions and experience and should not be considered professional advice. The content provided does not constitute legal advice. The Diva Details and its affiliate contributors and guests are not liable for any losses or damages arising from use of our content. The opinions expressed in the podcast are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliated organization, sponsors, or partner. All facts discussed in the podcast are researched and accurate to the best of our knowledge at the time of recording. Information may change over time. No guarantees are made regarding the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statements or opinions presented. It is the responsibility of the listener to verify any and all facts that may influence their decision. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice.